Yum. Oh, what a weird start to a 2021. Already chaos and craziness. I don't know if it's going to change. God, I hope. Certainly praying that this year brings a wave of spiritual integrity and principle into the lives of your heart and love. But I can already tell you challenges are rising, and it hasn't even been the first week. Yeah, not even done with the first week, and already challenges are rising. So I don't know how your 2021 is starting off. Hopefully better. um Good morning, Trish. I don't know who that is who just said good morning. Good morning to you guys. But I did take a couple of days off, and it was a whirlwind of crazy, and also starting to face my own challenges in my own life, which is fine. That is why I say stand. This is the year to stand firm in your spiritual principles, practices, and your spiritual laws. What will you compromise? What won't you compromise? Right? And understanding what's in between. Like, for instance, spiritual integrity for me is speaking my authentic truth from a place of personal responsibility, or being able to be vulnerable and open, right? And also not wavering in principle. Principle meaning I will not sell myself out or sell my soul out based on what other people think I should do, right? Good morning, Buddy. Um, so again, this is a 5 year. Now, a 5 year is a year, could be a year of chaos, but it is a year to really get firm in your spiritual principles and practices. And so, me, as I said before, I will stand with my staff as Moses did and not waver in principle. And, this is, again, it's a challenge, but with God's might with you, right, you're able to stand up and stand firm. And a lot of this is like setting boundaries. How do I set boundaries where I say, no, this will not happen, or this will not be, and allowing in your space the people that will help you grow and blossom into your beautiful self or your God self, right? So you could make a list of people, and I would say this, and I've told you guys to do this before. Good morning, Jessica. Is to write a list of individuals that are helping you grow or taking away from your growth, adding value to your life or taking value away from your life. And as you write that list down, you start to look and say, okay, if they're taking value from me or taking energy from me or not contributing to my divine purpose and helping me get into my divine birthright, then I'm going to cut them off, right? It's almost like, am I giving more energy to this than the other person? Am I the one who's giving all the energy? Am I the one who's doing all the work while they sit out and don't do any work? Or give support on the other end. So you can ask yourself those questions and set up boundaries for yourself. Well, here's the boundaries I'm going to set. I know that I'm not going to compromise. Good morning, Tammy. Those spiritual boundaries that we set. Boundaries are critical and important, and something that I learned about just recently. And it was hard because before, I don't know that I would necessarily set boundaries. I think I just kind of allowed things to unfold without really standing firm in my beliefs, out of fear of what? Being liked or being accepted. So, and I've noticed this already in the first of the year, what's going on. Like, I'm like, that's it. I'm not going to give my energy to individuals, right, that are not trying to meet me halfway or not trying to put in that effort as well. So, again, a crazy start to the first year. We're not even in a week, and I can tell you right now, it's going crazy already. I don't know how your lives are going. You're more than welcome to share. But on the other hand, there are many blessings that are starting to come in. And as I tell my nieces and even my family, that when you are on the right track, right? When you know you're on the right track and you're on the right track with God, when the blessings start to flow in abundantly. But when things start to fall apart in your life, or things are not going the way that you want, it's typically because you're off the mark. Not necessarily that you're a bad person, not necessarily that you're terrible, but that you might be off the mark. And if you're off the mark a little bit, right? If you're just off a little bit, it can also cause you to what? To completely devour, or to completely not see the path, right? So there's always going to be these cues that come in. And sometimes they happen in big tower events, like where everything explodes. And it can happen that way, or it can happen where you're into submission to turn to God and say, you know, help me through this, or whatever. It could be both. So it can end up in a tower or end up in you in submission. And it's just recognizing, right? So the more that you recognize, so there's been some pretty big blessings in my life, and this is how I know that I'm on the right track. You know, just, oh, by the way, for Podbean, I have 10,000 downloads, right? That's a milestone. It's pretty cool. I was like, wow, that's awesome. I didn't even know, right? I kind of just do this. Good morning, PPG. I do this podcast as a way to give back to humanity. And 10,000 downloads means that there's 10,000 people who've downloaded this podcast. That's pretty cool, right? So I'm like, oh, but really, is it for me? No, it's a badge for God. It's God's badge. We'll give it to God. It belongs to God. In the downloads. And so that's a blessing. Blessings with work, blessings with travel, blessings with friends, blessings with people in my life that truly want to be a part of my life. And being around people who truly care and want to be around me, right? Not just being around someone for the sake of filling the space and to not be lonely, right? So if we looked at our lives, and I think oftentimes most people have abandonment issues, and so we cling on to anything that we can in order to feel like we're not alone, but you're not alone because God's with you. And if you gave yourself the space to recognize that, right, then there would be no need to fill the void with other things. And the people that are in your life will be the people that want to be there, that truly care about you. Rather than having to force it. So, you're in the video. So again, a crazy start to a new year. I can already feel there's gonna be some grand stuff happening. But I want to continue on with the so happy new year, and I hope everybody's new year's off to a great start. Blessings and craziness all at the same time. But we will get into the book still, because again, we're in a 5 year. So until we get to a 6 year or a 7 year, it's going to be probably a little bit challenging. Remember, this whole thing, everybody's like ready for 2020. 2021 doesn't mean things are going to get easier. We're in a spiritual battle here. Okay, so let's just continue on through the dark emotions, because I feel like that is going to help us set the foundation to set up spiritual principles and practices that we need in order to stay strong and firm and grounded and not waver. Remember, be like Moses. Be like Moses, where he stood, you know, when he went in and he told them to, you know, let his people go, he didn't go in there nice and happy. He didn't say, hey, you guys, you know, can we negotiate this? Well, he tried, but at the end he finally said, no, you will let my people go. And that's just that. And when you have the staff of God with you, right, and you're doing it for righteously, and you stand with your staff, bye, have a good day, love you too, bye, and you stand with your staff, right, God will help you, will guide you, will split the sea, right? He'll carve out a path for you, right? He'll open up the space for you, passage, refuge. But you've got to stand firm with that staff. Okay, so this year be like Moses. Who else had staffs? Whoever else in your myth stories that you believe in, right? I know a lot of people believe in Christianity, but there's other people who believe in other things. So whatever it is for you, whatever it is in your beautiful religion that talks about a staff, because they all do, that you get your staff and you stand firm. Okay, 2020 is all about getting your staff and holding on to it, and going to the mountain to get your instructions from God about what will and will not be compromised in your spiritual law. Okay, that's what happened. That's the year we're in. Okay, some of us, the lucky ones, had a full palette of emotions, colors when we were young. We cried when we were sad. We laughed when we were glad. We yelled when we were mad. We said when we were scared. Nobody told us that we were bad, crazy, or sick. We were held, loved, confronted, disciplined with respect. But most of us didn't reap these early benefits. We were hushed when we were sad, hushed when we were mad, pushed away when we were scared. We were exhorted to control our feelings or hide them out of sight. We learned to fear the raw power of emotions and its expressions, an epidemic cultural-wide fear called emotional phobia or emotion phobia. It is in our families we first learn to distrust our feelings, to be shamed by them. Not listening to painful feelings is a family tradition shared by a variety of ethnically, racially, economically, and religious diverse families. When shaming and ignoring emotion don't work, there's always a direct threat of punishment. Punishment for visible suffering is particularly visited on boys, but girls too learn to silence themselves. By and large, girls learn to suffer in silence, boys to deny that they are suffering at all. This is critical because this is sort of where the split happened in emotional states of being, where men were made wrong to feel, women were shamed for feeling. So we have this sort of dynamic where everybody was just feeling bad about having feelings. They were feeling bad about feeling. And particularly in the Western culture, and I always say that because we know in Western society it's a little bit different. Now, these other spaces and places, there may be, where it was widely accepted and emotional states of being were accepted. But if you were shamed or feel ashamed of your feelings, like for instance, a way to know is when you cry. Typically, most people who cry, most people who feel some emotional state of being, who are sad, particularly males, particularly guys, they like, I don't cry. That's for sissies. That's for this. That's for that. They don't allow the emotional states of being to be expressed because society shames them, or the family shames them, or it doesn't look good. Be strong. Be this. Be that. Well, part of being strong is allowing yourself to crack wide open and opening up your heart and crying. Well, we know that. Now, too much emotion will drown you. I'm not saying that you want to stay there forever, but that doesn't mean that you don't allow yourself to go there at all. Allowing those emotional states to sort of overcome you and overflow out and out of you, through you, and not feeling wrong. So I typically go to, friends. Good morning, Lorna. Good morning, Olds. Good morning, Hannah. Good morning, Bada. Sorry if I'm saying these wrong. Good morning, DJ. I don't know if you guys are still on here, but good morning. And if you're on Facebook, please say good morning because it's not showing me who's here. So there was a split, and we understand this, and this is what happened, right? Good morning. Let's see, who's this? J Kemp. in the split of emotional states of being, right? When we had the split of that, where we said, you know, emotions are crazy. Oh, so then they tied that it was okay, a little bit more okay for women to have emotions, right? It's almost 3 p.m. here. Oh, well then, good afternoon, good evening, good afternoon. I don't know what we call that one. It is 7:49 a.m. here where I'm at. Good morning, Giffy. And so it was okay for women to kind of feel these emotional states of being, but still feeling shamed. And the way that they made women feel bad about having these emotional states is they called women crazy, right? Oh, she's crazy. She must be on her, cycle. She's just irrational. She's just, and good morning, Jeff. So what they did is they sort of labeled it as bad, as wrong, as crazy. Okay. On the other side, for men, which is really probably maybe worse, is that they said, you're a sissy, you're a wussy, man up, you can't have feelings, don't cry. And they tried to shut that part of this human being down. Well, we know that we can't just shut down a human being from being a human being. That's part of our being, it's part of our essence. That, in essence, that's who we are. We have feelings where there's no denying it, there's no getting away from it. You can act as though it doesn't exist, but really what's end up happening, especially if you have men who say, oh, I don't cry ever, really what they've done is numb themselves completely out from the experience of it. But that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It doesn't mean it's just gone away. What it means is now it's held internally and causing toxins to arise within the body because it's being held in. It's just being coddled. It's been chained down. And now it has nowhere to go. And so it's stuck in the subconscious mind, stuck in the body, stuck in the chemicals that secrete. When that tries to come out, instead of it secreting out and letting go, it stays in the body and starts to toxify. So emotions have and you guys, I'm sure you guys know this, but they have an impact on our body in our state of being. There's a chemical reaction that happens through our emotional states of being. Those chemical reactions, if not secreted properly, if not released properly, cause our bodies to shut down. That's where heart attacks come from. That's where all these things come from, right? Disease, discomfort, agony, pain, all these different things that happen to us when we don't allow ourselves to go through these emotional states. And it's really it's disheartening in a lot of ways to know that men, especially, and I would probably say in Europe as well, to just say, you know what, you can't cry, don't cry. Now, it is a family thing. I'm not saying all of America or all of the Western world is like this, but let's just say that the majority are. It's a rarity to find a man who will say, yes, I cry, or cry at movies. Now, I do have a nephew who does, but that's because we, good morning, Rome, have raised him to be okay with that. Now, there's a little bit on the other side is, can we be overly emotional? Yes. The overly emotional is that we don't want to stay there. Our emotions are a cue to tell us something. They're there to give us some kind of instruction to the body, to the mind, to the spirit. It's an instruction. Good morning, Yer. So when we feel emotional states of being, when something arises within us, it's sort of this cue. It's an opportunity to look and to identify and to understand. It's telling us something. It's giving us a cue. If we're feeling, it's kind of like this when they say, hi, Vicky, I can't change my name. Hi, it's Vicky. Oh, sorry. Hi, it's Vicky. I can't change my name. I got it. I thought sometimes I just read so fast, I just gloss over words. I was all, hey, my name's Vicky today. I can't change my name. Oh, I know. We get some people on here with some pretty cool, interesting names, and I just say good morning. I'll just say it all together, because we have like J Camp. Oh, that one's easy. But we have like DJ M2 Sans, We have IA hip wap. I don't. People come up with some pretty cool stuff. um, it's a cue. So like they say like, what is your stomach telling you? What is your heart telling you? Why do people say that? Because our bodies actually react to stimulus on the external and give us some sort of clue, some sort of instruction. As I've just joined what you are all talking about today. Yeah. We're talking about emotional states of being. I'm reading a book right now on the podcast, and I talk a lot, so I read very little and talk more. But it's Healing Through the Dark Emotions, The Wisdom of Grief, Fear, and Despair by Miriam Greenspan. And it's a emotional alchemy process that we use in order to overcome the dark emotions. And the process that sort of we get to go through in order to, right, find our gold, find our gems, in order to find sort of the gold pot at the end of the rainbow. So we go through all the colors of the rainbow, which we can call our emotional states of being, and then at the end of that we find our gold. And that's really what it's about. That's really alchemy, to be quite honest with you. Even in the Wizard of Oz, right? If we looked at the Wizard of Oz, and we really pulled it apart, the guy understood spiritual alchemy, and he understood the great work. And if you look at the Wizard of Oz, right, she's following the yellow brick road, but really, what is she following? She's following her heart, right? The Tin Man is really her heart. She's following her mind. Her mind is really, the Scarecrow is really her own mental state of being, her intellect and her discernment, right? The courage is her fire energies, the courage and her willingness to overcome the fear of whatever she's going through, again, becomes the courage that she's on. Those are all the bigger pieces of what's internally inside of us. Those are the cues. Our heart tells us of love. Our heart tells us of anxiety sometimes. Our heart tells us, it gives us a story. It gives us a cue, right? Our head sometimes goes crazy and off. We're not good enough. We're not worthy, right? The Scarecrow didn't feel good enough, didn't feel worthy, right? And then, I used to have darkness and depression, not anymore. The minute you wake up, you choose to be in a mindset you are feeling, or you can change it. Is that simple? Yeah. Yes. I'm sure it took you years to get to that simplicity, right? Um, and I would say it probably took you years, Vicky, because it doesn't just happen overnight. You have to be willing to go through the darkness. So you went through the darkness, and now you understand how to, what we call, alchemize. Good morning, Gary. The experience. So as the darkness shows up, rather than make it wrong, you're able to go through it and allow yourself to change and shift the mindset. But it sounds simple, right? And faith helped me. Oh yes, helped me also. Very good. Yes, I agree with you about that one too, because faith. I don't realize, I don't know that people realize, and it's okay if people are atheists, if people get on here that are atheists. Anybody's welcome here, right? This is not a religious podcast. This is about the spiritual alchemy, right? The process of alchemic processes and whatever you believe to support you through that process. Now, faith is a very, very powerful thing, okay? And faith, so I can tell you this from even personal experience, and it's kind of funny because I was even talking to my mother about this last night, is that I have a cousin who we were raised pretty much the same. We were very smart kids, right? We were smart, but I think he was smarter than me. I would say he's probably smarter than me. Although he and I used to play a lot of strategy games, and I would win him, he'd get really pissed off. So I was really good at like checkers and dominoes and cards and those kind of games. And but he was really good at school, right? And memory and all these other things. And we grew up together, but he had no faith. He didn't believe in anything. He was atheist. And I couldn't fathom that because I always had faith, right? I was born with it. It just was born in me. I mean, I never didn't have faith. I've never not had faith. So don't really understand the not faith thing. Okay, but I realize as a result, as adults, now that we're adults, the results of his life and the results of my life, they're vastly different. Now, he's on a journey. I'm not saying his life is bad, but I know that if he had faith, he could have experienced so much more. Because faith requires our ability to believe in the power of something greater than us that can then support us or guide us through the process of this tiny little thing that we are. We're just like a tiny little grain of sand trying to like get through life. And this grander thing is kind of there to support us through it, help us through it, be there to love us regardless, right? But, right? But looking at the difference of people who have faith and don't, typically people with faith are highly optimistic, opportunistic. People who don't have faith are typically cynical. Now I'm saying typically, have us more cynical. They want to see truth and results. You can't, how could you find God? You can't, I mean, God is within. It's like this thing, this we're too tiny to understand it. It's like there's that ant pile, right? Someone had brought that up the other day. It's like, can an ant pile really truly understand what a highway's function is? No, they're too tiny. They don't even know what's going on. They're just busy building their own little highways underneath the earth, right? And so understanding this grand design, however, having faith that they've done studies, and I've read about studies about people who have faith, and they say that it's better to have faith and believe that there's something greater than you than not to believe it, because the outcome of that belief system and that way of thinking actually results in a happier, healthier, grander life. There's proof in it, even if it wasn't true. So to me, I'm like, why wouldn't people go the route where they would experience joy and more happiness? But some people don't. So that's okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. But there's that opportunity to choose it, right? Sometimes when you say faith, it frightens people off. But hey, in my opinion, they are just frightened of what they don't know. I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for what I believe in. However, I will never shove it down anyone's throat. If people ask, I'm here. Yeah, that's great. And that's a beautiful thing. And thank you for sharing. I love when people share. Yes, it's beautiful. And no, we don't shove it down people's throat. Definitely about supporting people in hoping that they'll find their faith, right? The spiritual alchemy, though, is it's a powerful process, right? It's a powerful thing. And the moving through dark emotions, right? If it's faith that helps you, that's beautiful. Okay? And so there's other ways to get through it as well. And part of it is having that belief in yourself that you can do it. But yes, faith is a critical key, I think, because going through the dark emotions is having faith that you're going to get through it and not die. Because some people feel like they're going to die if they have to go through it. They'd rather avoid it at all costs, right? I live by 1 Corinthians 13. Awesome. I don't know if you want to share what that is. I don't know Bible verses. I was raised Catholic, by the way, but I'm not a Catholic, but I still all about love. Yay, good. Well, there you go. That's what this podcast is all about: love, 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 love. Everything circles back to love, even when we're pissed off. So we get to go through the emotions and then come back to love all over again. So that very good. I like that. So again, dark emotions. Thank you for sharing. Always a pleasure, even if I go off on a tangent, which is fine. That's what this is about. Free talk. So through the emotional states of being, knowing that we right now are this year's, it's going to be a blessing. If you did all of the work last year to prepare yourself for this year, you're going to have blessings. But don't think that it's just over yet, because we have to get through this process to set new foundations completely, and that takes a while. Okay, people can test us, but we must keep showing love. Yes, if we don't have love, we have nothing. Amen. I love that. Yes. And love, love, love. I agree. We come back to love always. So again, circling back with the emotional states of being, allow yourself to go through this emotional states of being. And as you can see, when you go through the darkness, right? Even as Vicky said, well, I've been there. Well, yeah, you've been there, but you were allowed yourself to go through it, and you allowed yourself to come out on the other end of that, which is really, really awesome. So many blessings to you. And we will continue on the book tomorrow and the next day and the next day. And I'm trying to get up again at 4:30. Didn't happen these last couple of days because, well, craziness in this world, in my life, where I stood up way too late. And so tonight I get to go to bed early so that I can be up at 4:30 so I can get on here, okay? I'm in the UK. Awesome. Cheers. I love my internationals. Working from home. Yeah, that's me. I work from home as well. But I did hit 10,000 downloads for for the podcast, so that's kind of cool. It's pretty exciting. So I say God. It's all for God. God just got a badge. We're in a national lockdown. Yeah, so are we. We're in a lockdown too. I think everybody is. Been a crazy year. We'll see what this next year brings. But here's what I say to 2021. Set your spiritual values and principles. Carry your staff like Moses. Moses laid the law of the land. Now it's time for you to lay your own law of your land. What is it that you will or will not compromise? What boundaries will you set for yourself? Okay? So carry your staff, set up your spiritual practices and principles, get very clear about who and what people you're allowing yourself to be surrounded by. Are those people adding value, helping you grow, or are they taking away from and not? And is it okay to cut that off? Sure. Doesn't mean you don't love them. Just means that you don't have to be around everybody. It's okay. Not everybody has to be your cup of tea, and you don't have to be everybody's cup of tea. Okay? Self-perseverance is key. Be comfortable to say no as well. Yes, that's the boundaries. Must set boundaries. Okay? So there you have it. That is today's podcast. I again will be on tomorrow reading the same thing. I did take a few days off, so I took about 3 days off. I've been kind of taking days off lately, just not, and allowing myself the time to rest. But I'm back on, and again, I'll be here tomorrow trying to get up at 4:30 to do my Kundalini and do all of that other stuff. So please be well, and God be with you. Many blessings, love, light, and beauty to you and your families. And I will be seeing you tomorrow. Also, thank you for engaging. Thank you for sharing. I love when people share. It makes it amazing to engage. And again, I will one day have people call in. But because I do this live on Facebook, it becomes hard to get callers in because I want to make sure that I'm catering to all that get on here, okay? So I love you guys. Have the most blessed day ever. And I will be seeing you all tomorrow.